The final scoreboard at the arena was a picture of clinical efficiency. It read Team USA 91, Puerto Rico 48. By any objective measure, it was a dominant performance, a masterclass in basketball that underscored the vast gulf in resources and talent between the world's premier basketball nation and a spirited, overmatched opponent. The players high-fived, the coaches shook hands, and the crowd, having witnessed a spectacle of athleticism, began its slow exodus toward the exits. The game was over, but in the digital arena another contest was just beginning. A contest not about points and rebounds, but about perception, body language, and the immense gravity of superstardom. And at the very center of this new storm sat a brief, almost forgettable image: the Team USA bench during a timeout. This is the story of how a 43-point victory became a national conversation, how a routine moment of sideline strategy was dissected like a Zapruder film, and how the presence of one player, Clark, has fundamentally altered the way we watch and discuss the game of women's basketball. To understand the frenzy, you have to understand the anticipation that preceded it. The Team USA women's basketball team is not just a team, it's an institution, a dynasty, a relentless gold medal-producing machine that has set a standard of excellence spanning decades. Every player who dons the red, white, and blue carries the weight of that legacy. But when the roster for this particular exhibition series was announced, the usual aura of quiet confidence was replaced by a palpable buzz. The reason was Clark. Her arrival on the professional scene had been nothing short of a seismic event. Her college career was a legendary run of deep threes, no-look passes, and record-breaking scoring that transcended the usual boundaries of women's college basketball. She brought casual fans with her, viewers who tuned in not just for the game, but for the moment. They wanted to see the logo 3. They wanted to see the pass that left defenders and spectators alike wondering what just happened. She was a walking highlight reel, a viral moment waiting to happen. So when she was named to the Team USA roster for these pre-Olympic exhibitions, the narrative wrote itself. The world's biggest stage was about to meet the game's brightest star. The arena that night was electric, not just with the patriotic pride of a home game, but with the specific, focused energy of fans who had come to see one player perform magic. They wore her jerseys. They cheered her warm-up drills. Every time she touched the ball in the early going, a ripple of anticipation washed through the crowd. The game itself began as expected. Team USA's starting five, featuring the seasoned Paige Buchers, moved the ball with the crisp precision of a well-oiled machine. They probated the Puerto Rican defense, found open shooters, and established an interior presence that Puerto Rico simply couldn't counter. The lead grew methodically. When Clark checked into the game for the first time, the arena's energy level spiked, and for a few minutes she delivered. A slick wraparound pass found a cutter for an easy layup. A quick rebound led to an outlet pass that sprung a fast break. A moment of hesitation dribble froze her defender before she calmly knocked down a mid-range jumper. It was all there: the playmaking, the vision, the innate feel for the game. The crowd responded to every touch, every flash of brilliance. But then, almost imperceptibly, the rhythm changed. The offense, which had been flowing through Clark's hands in those initial possessions, began to run through different channels. Other guards initiated the sets. Clark found herself stationed in the corner, a spectator to the action rather than the conductor. The ball movement was still crisp, and Team USA was still scoring with ease. Puerto Rico, to their immense credit, never stopped fighting, but they were swimming against a relentless tide. On the court, Clark's role seemed to shift from primary playmaker to floor spacer. She was moving without the ball, a testament to her work ethic, but for the fans who had come to see her orchestrate the offense, it felt like a puzzle. Why was the engine idling when the star point guard was in the game? The lead continued to balloon, silencing any criticism from a purely results-based perspective, but it planted a seed of curiosity in the minds of viewers watching closely at home. Something felt different. The game rolled on. Substitutions happened in a steady, rhythmic flow. Coaches tinkered with lineups, searching for the right combinations. During one of these routine stoppages in the second half, the television broadcast cut to a wide shot of the Team USA bench. Players were seated, some with towels draped over their heads, others sipping sports drinks. Head coach Cheryl Reeve stood in front of them, diagramming a play on a whiteboard, her voice a low, steady hum lost to the broadcast microphones. The camera briefly settled on a cluster of players. Caitlin Clark sat next to Angel Reese. They were both listening intently, their gazes fixed on the coach. Clark nodded slightly at something. Reese leaned forward, her expression unreadable. The moment lasted perhaps 5 seconds before the camera cut back to the action on the court. It was, by every conceivable metric of live sports television, a nothing burger. A standard, boring, completely unremarkable timeout huddle. But in the vast, hungry ecosystem of social media, there is no such thing as an unremarkable moment. Within minutes of that broadcast shot, the clip was clipped again, and set to loop on X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. The initial posts were simple. Did anyone else catch this on the bench? Or the body language here is interesting. And then the analysis began. It started with the freeze frame. Look at Clark's expression. A single, neutral moment frozen in time was assigned a narrative. Was it frustration, contemplation, detachment? The blank slate of a candid expression was quickly painted with the colors of confirmation bias. Then came the focus on the interaction, or lack thereof. Were they talking to each other? They weren't. Was that significant? In the vacuum of a silent, still image, it became a chasm. The fact that two superstars were seated next to each other but focused on the coach, as players in a timeout are literally supposed to be, was interpreted by some as a sign of a rift. The clip was then re-uploaded with dramatic music, slowed down, and analyzed by amateur lip readers and body language experts who had never met either player. The narrative exploded into two distinct, opposing camps. One camp saw tension, jealousy, and a team dynamic in shambles. They pointed to the subtle shift in offensive flow during the game as evidence. They argued that Clark was being marginalized, that the old guard of USA basketball was threatened by her meteoric rise. Clark not starting the game was proof. The bench moment was the smoking gun. This was a conspiracy to keep the sport's biggest star in her place. The other camp saw complete and utter overreaction. They pointed to the scoreboard. Team USA was winning by 40 points. Coaches coach, players listen. That's what happens in a timeout. They argued that basketball is a fluid game, offensive rhythm shifts for 100 reasons, none of which involve a secret plot. To them, seeing a conspiracy in a 5-second clip of a team huddle was the internet's worst habit on full display, finding drama where none exists to generate engagement. The debate was no longer about the game. It was about a ghost, a narrative conjured from pixels and projection. The debate raged on, fueled by a seemingly endless supply of content creators and analysts. YouTube channels dedicated to hoops breakdowns began dissecting not just the bench moment, but every single play involving Clark and Reese. One popular streamer grabbed a clip from the game, a defensive rebound by Reese. "Now, in my opinion," he began, his voice taking on the tone of a wise sage, "if I have the best point guard in the league beside me, I'm letting her have that ball. Every time." He froze the frame. "See, Caitlin's right there, ready to run. She grabs the board, she can lead the break. We have numbers, it's 5-on-3 if we just push it. But look." He pointed as Reese clutched the rebound and started to dribble up the court herself, while Clark, initially angling for the outlet, slowed her run. This confusion, Caitlin slowing down so Angel can cross it, allows the defense to get back. We went from a potential easy bucket to a half-court set. We still got a decent look, but it could have been great. Another clip from a previous game against a different opponent was unearthed. In it, Clark caught a skip pass on the wing and had Reese posting up hard on the block. Clark pump-faked and held the ball for a beat before looking Reese off and swinging it to the other side of the court. "She looked her off, dog," the analyst laughed. "She looked her off. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. I think Caitlin knows Angel is most effective coming off a pick and roll, getting downhill, not backing down from a set defender. It's about efficiency, but you see it. The dynamic is there. Each clip, each analysis, added another layer to the story, regardless of whether the analysis was accurate or fair. The initial spark of a bench moment was now a roaring fire, fed by a steady stream of content that blurred the line between observation and speculation. The final buzzer sounded. The victory was official. In the mixed zone and at the post-game press conference, the atmosphere should have been one of quiet satisfaction. Head coach Cheryl Reeve, a seasoned veteran of these media scrums, stepped to the podium expecting questions about rotations, defensive intensity, and preparation for the next opponent. And for the first few minutes, that's what she got. She spoke eloquently about the team's unselfishness. She praised Puerto Rico's fight. She talked about the importance of these exhibition games for building chemistry against different styles of play. It was textbook coaching rhetoric. Then the questions turned. A reporter, perhaps sensing the digital wildfire raging outside the arena, asked about Caitlin Clark's specific role in the game. They mentioned the shift in offensive flow, the minutes she played, a solid 18, and asked for the coach's perspective on her integration into the team's system. Coach Reeve's answer was measured and professional. She explained that with a team of this caliber, the offensive focal point is a living, breathing thing. It shifts based on matchups, based on who has the hot hand, based on what the defense is giving you. She emphasized that the team's goal is to find the best possible combination on the court at any given moment, and that sometimes a player's impact isn't reflected in their box score. Clark's presence, she noted, stretches the floor and creates opportunities for others. It was a calm, rational, and completely uncontroversial explanation. But in the current climate, a calm, rational explanation is the least satisfying kind. For those already convinced of a conspiracy, the coach's words were not a denial. They were a confirmation, couched in the careful language of a politician. For the other side, it was a simple statement of fact that should end the debate. It did neither. The press conference became just another piece of evidence in the ongoing trial by social media. The debate now had a new layer, the agenda. The idea that there was a concerted effort within the USA basketball establishment to diminish Caitlin Clark's role took hold in certain corners of the internet. Commentators, with a wink and a nod, began alluding to it. The agenda is thick tonight, one online personality declared, reacting to the starting lineup. You can only start if you check at least one box, woo. The insinuation was clear, tapping into a pre-existing cultural rift that had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with the broader, more contentious conversations happening in society. The fact that Team USA had posted the starting lineup at the very last second was cited as proof. They knew they'd get destroyed again, the narrative went. Every decision, from the starting five to the substitution patterns, was no longer a basketball decision. It was a political one. Lost in the maelstrom of the debate were the two players at the center of it, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Theirs is one of the most fascinating dynamics in all of sports. They are linked by history, having met in one of the most viewed college basketball games of all time. They are rivals. They are also, by many accounts, peers who respect each other's game. They represent two different styles of play and two different fan bases, but they share the singular experience of having their every move dissected under a white-hot spotlight. The bench moment was notable precisely because it was the two of them. If Clark had been sitting next to a role player, the clip would have vanished into the digital ether. But seeing the two most talked-about young stars in the sport, side by side and silent, was a Rorschach test. People projected their own hopes and fears about the team, the league, and the sport onto that image. Some saw a Cold War, two competitors unable to bridge the gap. Others saw the simple reality of two focused athletes listening to their coach. The truth, as it usually does, likely lay somewhere in the mundane middle. They were probably just tired. They were probably just listening. But in a world that demands narratives, the mundane is unacceptable. The irony is that both players played well. Clark contributed 8 points, 2 assists, and 3 rebounds in her 18 minutes, a solid if unspectacular stat line. Reese, coming off the bench, notched a double-double with 10 points and 13 rebounds, doing what she does best, dominating the glass and providing energy. By any reasonable standard, it was a successful night for both of them. But the discourse had left the box score behind. The conversation was now about how they looked while doing it, who they sat next to, and what their silence might mean. So, what actually happened during Team USA's win over Puerto Rico? On the court, a world-class team took care of business against a game but outmatched opponent. Off the court, a cultural phenomenon took place. A brief, innocuous image became a Rorschach test, a blank canvas upon which millions of fans painted their own narratives about jealousy, conspiracy, and team dynamics. This is the reality of modern sports fandom. The game itself is only half the story. The other half is the metagame, the endless cycle of content creation, analysis, and debate that happens in the digital spaces around the arena. Every camera angle is a potential piece of evidence. Every player's expression is a clue. Every coach's word is a text to be interpreted. Caitlin Clark didn't just change the game with her logo threes and no-look passes. She changed the game's attention economy. She brought with her a legion of new, intensely invested fans who hang on every possession. This level of attention is a double-edged sword. It elevates the sport, driving ratings and filling arenas. But it also brings a level of scrutiny that is unprecedented in women's basketball. Every substitution, every cold night from the field, every quiet moment on the bench is no longer just a part of the game. It is data for the narrative machine. As the team bus pulled away from the arena, the physical game was in the rearview mirror, but the digital game was just hitting its stride. Talking heads on television would spend the next 24 hours debating the bench moment. Think pieces would be published, some decrying the toxicity of the discourse, others diving deeper into the perceived dynamics. The clip would continue to be shared, liked, and commented on, accruing millions of views. The most compelling part of this story isn't what happened on that Tuesday night in November. It's what will happen on Thursday and Saturday, and every time Team USA steps on the court for the foreseeable future. The next time Clark catches the ball on the wing and Reese is posting up, everyone will be watching to see if she looks her off. The next timeout, the cameras will linger a little longer on the bench, hopping to capture another 5-second loop that can be spun into gold. Team USA won the game against Puerto Rico. That fact is indisputable, etched in the scoreboard. But they also prove something else, that in the age of hyperanalysis and social media, the final buzzer is no longer the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning. And as long as players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are on the court, the entire world will be watching, analyzing, and debating, searching for the unseen game hidden within the one we can all see. The victory was comfortable, but the conversation, that was just getting started.